Hello and welcome to the AUA Focus Series, a podcast channel by the AUA Media Lab. My name is Tigran Hovsepyan and I am an AUA alumni with a BA in Business, class of 2020. And today I will be speaking with Inna Sahakyan, director and producer at Bars Media Documentary Film Studio. She directed several feature documentary films, including the critically acclaimed Aurora Sunrise, which has won over 30 international awards and was screened at more than 80 festivals. She's also my beloved colleague at Bars Media. So welcome, Inna Jan.
Thank you, Tigran, and it's a great pleasure and honor to be at this podcast.
Thank you so much for being here. The film came out 3 years ago, yet it's still being screened at different places worldwide. Isn't it crazy? And what do you think about this?
Yeah, it is really great, and I am very happy for that, especially that this film has a very important message for all of us, for all Armenians, and I think also for the whole humanity. And the great part of it, that it's not only screened among Armenian communities, but it's still screened in many universities worldwide. It's still invited to the festivals, more thematic, human rights, or like a bit niche festivals, not the same big wave as it was during the first 2 years of the post-production. And it will continue, especially in the months of April. The attention towards the film, I think, will raise forever. And that's the power of documentaries, comparing with other medias, that they stay and continue to educate and make impact.
Can you remember, what was the most memorable screening that you've attended?
Oh my God! Of course, for me as a director, it was the premiere at Annecy Festival. First of all, that was a big achievement that Armenian feature-length animated documentary screened at Annecy. It was not screened; it was among the competition. And Annecy, just for the audience, if they don't know, it's so-called Cannes of the animation world. And it was my first screening, which was full of international audience. And sadly, there was not Q&A. There is not a Q&A format in the festival in general. But the whole auditorium, full 500, non-Armenian audience, was standing and 5 minutes applauding. And then later on, a lot of people were achieving me in a different locations of the festival, asking questions about the film.
Okay, I want to go back a little bit and ask you about the story of how did you come up with the idea of Aurora Sunrise and how long did the filming process take? Because I heard it took a lot of years.
Yes, you were lucky that you joined our team afterwards.
I joined after the film.
But you're still involved, right?
Yes, because there's still work to do even after the film is done, always.
Yeah, that's ongoing. So the production itself took 7+ years, from which about 3+ years were the fundraising, because it's so hard to fundraise when you are coming from Armenia, small production studio, almost very tiny public funding from your own country. So it should go through co-production. So basically we are knocking a lot of doors, working very hard as producers in order to make our stories to reach to bigger screen. However, all together was more than 7 years, because also that was our first animated movie. So, and it's very, very interesting. 3 international companies were working, plus additional on-off studio from Armenia, and none of us done feature-length animation before. So it was the first experience for all of us. And the idea came actually. We were working together with Zoryan Institute, thinking what we can do for the 100 years Commemorial Day of Armenian Genocide for 2015. So we start to work over the idea what to do from 2013 on. And we were thinking to make a film, almanac film, with the different stories from Zoryan Institute archive. But then when we discovered Aurora's testimony, it was so strong and so unique and had so many layers that we decided that the most important project for all of us will be to retell Aurora's story as a one-off film.
Well, to think about, let's come back to. I wanna talk a little bit more about the Zoryan Institute, but I also wanted to. I just realized something, that you started working on this film before I joined AUA, and then I graduated from AUA, and you were still working on it, and it's just crazy to think how you work 7 tireless years for 1.5 hour film, but it pays off. Obviously, all hard work pays off. Now, going back to Zoryan Institute, whose catalog is actually available at AUA Papazian Library, how did you engage with those archives and during the research process and the production? And were there any surprising details that helped you shape the narrative, that helped you shape the story of Aurora?
Zoryan Institute and Bars Media know each other since 90s, and it's a very interesting long story. I'll just tell it short. The founder of Bars Media, Tigran Hovsepyan, was freelance filmmaker during the first Artsakh War. And he was filming whatever he was witnessing, but of course that was still Soviet, so he didn't know where and how to keep all these materials. And learning about Zoryan Institute, which is collecting archives, he started to send the tapes, like post tapes, to the Zoryan Institute. So since then, we are in like friendship, partnership, relationship with the institute, and of course the archives were very important for this film. But besides Zoryan Institute, another important part of the film is archives from Armenian Film Foundation, which also recorded 2 amazing interviews with Aurora in a high-quality film tapes.
In the 70s, right?
Different. Like there's 3 testimonies. One is filmed in 70, the other 2 in 80s. So I basically collected all existing archival interviews with Aurora. But interesting part working with Zoryan was also that I get access to the other testimonies from the same region, because even though the film is about like one girl and her pass through these horrors and her achievements, in order to understand the collective memory and also to cover the spots in a story, like blind spots that we had, obviously I was not able to sit with Aurora and interview her myself in order to understand all the details of the story. The collective memory was very important part. And listening other survivors from the same village, comparing Aurora's past with their stories, was filling gaps. And I think it's really amazing source of archive for anyone who is interested in oral history, in history in general, in psychology, in like human rights studies. So AUA is blessed to have that kind of archive in their library.
I want to ask something which I think a lot of people also wonder. Why animation? Why documentary animation?
What I had as a filmmaker, right? What our studio has. We had only archival interviews and pieces of silent movie and some very limited archives from the genocide, which we all know, right? And who will watch? I mean, your generation will not sit and watch film which is cut from interviews and some archival photos. So we need to find medium that will speak with a wide audience. And all what Bars Media does, the main goal in our work is that the films will speak to as wide as possible audiences, that they will be shown worldwide and they will have impact. So we need to find this medium, and animation is very unique. And I had seen great examples of past animated documentaries like Waltz with Bashir, Persepolis, which were very strong. And we all together sit and decided that the best way to tell this story will be animation, because it's the magic tool to restore the memories and talk about horrors, but at the same time distancing audience from very direct representation.
And I can imagine how deeply emotional, like you sitting in hours and hours and weeks and months of researching, must have been pretty hard emotionally as well, looking at all that material. How did you cope with this? How did you What was the force that kept
the hardships
you going?
were so many. It's not just the archives and materials and the topic. It was also financial. Like basically, we reached to the point that we had to stop film at certain point because you cannot move on without. So there were so many challenges. COVID started. The worst war in 2020, when you are working on a genocide movie and you are witnessing the same atrocities at the so honestly, there were breakdown moments in our, especially in my work over the film. But then when you step back and look it from a bit far, you understand what she passed and she's still keeping going on does not let us to step back from this story. So that she basically lead us to make this film.
Nice. Did you actually study filmmaking yourself?
No.
No. So tell me, how did Inna Sahakyan, director and producer, come out to be?
Thanks to dreaming and also Bars Media, because I came Bars Media pretty young. God, that was 23 years ago. Unbelievable. And I just sent my resume as an office manager because I saw documentary film studio. They have an open position for office manager. I should try because I always dreaming. I always was dreaming to be
a filmmaker,
to be connected with the film world. Actually, back then I was not really sure what I want to do, but and I started as an office manager at Bars Media. But then I started to push everyone, like give me chance, give me a small project, give me a small corporate film, etc., etc. And then slowly I started to do my own projects. And my first debut film was, I started in 2007 and completed in 2010, co-directed with Armenia, The Last Tightrope Dancer, which was co-produced with Japan, Finland and so on, and become again festival favorites. So it's long story short, it's keep believing in your dreams, work hard and knock every door. This is what brings me to filming. And thank you, Bars Media, for giving me this opportunity.
It's actually, now that you're telling me, I feel like it's we have a kind of a similar story, but 20 years later, because I don't have much of a film background myself either. I mean, I graduated from business at AUA, and then I did my master's abroad in creative industries, but I've always also wanted to be in film, and that's the same way I joined Bars Media. It's just really, history is repeating itself in
Exactly. And I think the good education, the basic strong education, gives anyone opportunity to sharpen later on their career to the direction that they dream and they want to work. And for example, I can bring an example of my daughter who is AUA graduated.
She also did. That's right.
And she graduated from English and Communication, but she now is planning to do her master in the character design art because she is artist. She was always involved in artistic projects and her soul is in art, but the good education gives her base later on to raise.
That's absolutely true, especially when it comes to AUA. Does she also want to be in filmmaking, you think, in later? Directing also?
No, I don't think directing. Character design for animated and game
video
projects.
games, yeah. That's nice. That's so cool. Okay, I want to stir this conversation a little bit about making documentary films in Armenia right now. How is it filming documentaries, and what are the biggest challenges right now?
It's only challenges.
It's only challenges.
The only thing which is also sad that the situation is like this, that we have a lot of topics for documentary films. Recent wars, atrocities, situation in the country, refugee crisis, they all are basis for the strong and interesting human rights documentary projects. I can say that it's all around our challenges in creating any film production in Armenia. And the hardest part, of course, is finding financing, putting together the options to co-produce the films, to find other partners, because our local funding is very small. And beside being small, for last year, we basically did not have any financing because it was transformation system in the Cinema Fund of Armenia. We do not have support from television. Usually, in rare cases, like Aurora Sunrise was supported by a public channel, but it's a rare example, not standard. While in the whole world, especially Europe, with whom we are working, and the model of European creative film industry we adopted, they always work in cooperation with public television and public film fund and co-production system. So basically what I had, because I produce and direct films, and which is sad that my producer work takes more than 80% of my time. I have to put together the different parts of puzzle, trying to balance and make the films. So it's so hard.
You mentioned co-productions, though. What about co-productions? Isn't it easier to do co-productions with other countries? Do we have a good scheme?
There is no other way, basically, now to complete full films if you are not going to co-productions. But it's not easy. If we talk about it, it will be endless. It's not easy. It's specific knowledge. And one of the biggest challenges that we up to now do not have strong film education, especially education in the sphere of producing in Armenia. Because producer is the person who is putting together all financial plan or organization and everything else for the production of the film. And if the film has no good producer, then it's very hard to bring even the most genius idea of the directors to the life. And this is where we are lacking experienced colleagues. And I hope you will be one of the best producers of bars. I mean, you already are.
Come on, no.
but
more
higher
But it's
levels.
true. We don't. Unfortunately, we don't have the education for it. That's why I wanted to produce. When I was working, when I was studying here, I decided that I want to produce. But I was like, where am I gonna go and study? There's nothing.
That's why what we are doing at Bars Media. You also witness. We taking young, enthusiastic. Not kids,
Teenagers,
young people who wants to grow, and I can't say that we teach them in a classical way, but we share with them our experience, we involve them in our project, and then they have opportunity to raise. So please, Tigran, recruit bright minds, bright creative minds from AUA and bring them to Bars Media, because there's so much that we can do together. If I'm talking about Bars Media itself, that's where we are lacking. We do have a lot of creative ideas, but we do not have enough producers to push them forward. So I am pushing my ideas forward and helping others. But then we need more people in order that we will be able to make more films from Armenia.
I think one of the reasons why people don't want to be producers is that I think 99% of them don't know what producers do. It's just because it's something that people never understand.
That's why
I mean, in the shadows.
It will be great if will be master classes. I can personally go and give some lectures, short terms introduction of the work in general, because that's very important, and that's that's not the future even. That's the current situation of film industry. No producer, basically no work, no film. So that's the one of biggest challenges for our country.
Yeah. Okay, I want to bring it back to, and maybe we can end on this. I want to bring it back to Aurora Sunrise and somehow tied to the future, because this is something that happened 110 years ago. We're talking about it now. How do you want to continue, you personally as Inna, how do you want to continue Aurora's legacy? And what are the next projects you're currently working on?
To be really honest, I dream not to work to any other hard films. And I dreamed that my other next films would have been, while I was doing Aurora, I was like, oh my God, I need to do funny, light, kind projects, since like genocide and all the social films that I was working for the last 20 years. And I even started one. While I was working on Aurora, I was dreaming that my next film will be something light, kind, comedy. And I even started one. But I, as a filmmaker at least, had no choice when events of 2020 and then later 2023 happened. When you work in the past on a film about past genocide, hoping that it will change the world a little bit, will learn lesson from the past and see that it's not even happening now, but it's worse, because the difference of this genocide that happened to Artsakh people was that it was online, basically. We were witnessing what is happening on social medias and on news and so on. I was thinking what we can do as a studio on this topic, because it's very important when you're starting any film to understand, will it speak to international audience or not? And just showing what happened and just showing that, okay, we witnessed these massacres or ethnic cleansing that nobody will watch, especially in comparison with what's happening now in the world when we have Gaza, Ukraine. Syria. So finally, I find the way to talk about this with international audience, and now working on the film called In Front of Us, which has 2 strong female characters who are fighting for justice for human rights violations that happened during this period. So the audience will follow the 2 women's fight and how they are trying to change the situation rather just facts, what happened. And the film is addressing all war crimes and crimes against humanity happened in this period through personal stories of witnesses. And I'm very, despite we do have very tough financial situation now because of all that I explained earlier, it will come, but it takes time. Hopefully it will come. We filmed quite a lot, and we do have very strong interest from Arte. The film is already co-production between Armenia, Belgium, and Germany. We have several international broadcasters attached to the film. So hopefully it will be another Aurora sunrise, but sadly about the current genocide.
So it's coming soon.
No.
Not anytime
Document.
soon.
You know that thing.
I know.
Now I'll ask you, how hard is to put together financing for
It's
this kind of film?
No, it is super hard. Yes.
Especially with
also not only in Armenia, but like worldwide. Funds are being cut. Broadcasters are being closed, deprived of funding.
The bureaucracy takes forever. Yes. So
it's true.
Yeah. Hopefully in 2020, hopefully in the end of 2026 or beginning 2027.
Okay.
But sooner better. But directly it's connected with also financing and the story development, but mostly financing, because you can't finish the film, you can't do full post-production professional without funding. But this is one of the rare films that I want really to finish soon, because it will be basically a strong visual document about the human rights violation.
Isn't it also difficult when you're shooting a documentary compared to a fiction film, because time is passing and you have to film, but there's no funds.
Not only that, but also that's one of the hardest part. You can't stop. You just cannot stop production, because the life is happening my protagonists are going to the international criminal courts. They're going to the to speak with Congress, and you cannot like miss these scenes from your future film. So you have to spend on pocket money, beg other film, like not pay salaries sometimes to my colleagues and say, okay, sorry, like next month, but now we need to put it into the filmmaking expenses. But also other hard part for documentary filmmaker, that you are dealing with reality, and you have to still work. You deal with real tragedies. You deal with human like stories that cannot even imagined in a fiction film.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
you need to be strong and need to keep them strong in order that they will. I mean, comparing with their strengths, the strengths of my protagonists that are now speaking in this film, I do nothing because they lived through this and they have courage to talk about it publicly.
Well, I think that's it. Thank you so much for being here today, Injan. I wish you best of luck on your upcoming new projects. And thank you for being here and talking to us here at AUA.
Thank you, Tigran, for having this conversation with me. I will succeed with your help. Stay with Mars Media and support, and let's work together.
Thank you.